Right then, it's time to go urban exploring, and this time it's the Chattenden and Lodge Hill Barracks area. Most of this land is owned by Ministry of Defence and there's quite a surreal atmosphere here, especially the roads, because these roads are quite wide and very well maintained, but hardly anyone uses them, especially roads off the bottom of this map here. And just like country roads, but wide and no one about. Very weird, especially when there's a zebra crossing right in the middle of nowhere. How weird. Right then, this area is all old barracks. There's housing estate here. These houses were originally army houses, but the houses have now been sold off, so are now owned by ordinary people. And there was originally a railway here. This railway went from the Ola Grain Railway, which today is not used very much. There's no passenger services on it, just a goods train once a day going off to Grain Power Station. All of the passenger stations on it have been removed, but a long time ago there was actually a branch line off of the Grain Railway down through Lodge Hill Barracks, through Chattenden Barracks and down to the river at Upner. And this is at the military pier Upner. And sadly you can't actually get to this bit, but apparently the remains of the old tracks are still on this pier. But sadly this military bit of Upner is now being demolished. Very sadly, more loss of heritage. So then, if we look at this area on the map, over here we have Chattenden Barracks. These barracks closed down a while ago and are now completely abandoned. Medway Council wanted to build on this land, but they were stopped as this site is now an environmentally sensitive site. Quite often most people think of greenfield sites as being like places where there's lots of wildlife and that, but brownfield sites can also often make really good habitats for wildlife, and this area is quite rare because it's a habitat for nightingales, and because of that Medway House were blocked from building houses on it, and Medway House were very angry about this. And it is quite weird because Medway Council like to go on about visit historic Medway. Basically what I mean about that is just visit Rochdale, not Medway, just Rochdale. They just want to bring in ordinary tourists that just want to see like tourist attractions and give them money and all that. They don't actually care about real heritage. Medway Council would not care one bit if all of these historic buildings here were just demolished. But anyway, let's get back to the video. And so this area here is Chattenden Barracks. It is completely abandoned, but it's still quite secure. There's holes in the fence to get in here, but they've all been blocked up. They're very thorough at blocking up any holes in the fence here, and it's quite annoying. So along we go to the housing, and this, as I said before, is ex-army housing, and up we go along to here where some abandoned buildings, and up here is the Lodge Hill Barracks. And you'd have to pretty much be a lunatic to try and urban explore the Lodge Hill Barracks, as they are still in use by the army. So apart from Lodge Hill Barracks at the top, which I'm not going to go anywhere near, the rest of the army buildings here are abandoned, and let's go and urban explore them. Firstly, let's take a look at these buildings. These are some abandoned buildings up towards the Lodge Hill end of the site, and they are quite secure. But before we take a look at these, let's go down to the bomb factory. Now this is on a little road coming off of the main road. There's a gate across it, and it does seem quite abandoned down here, and it is quite spooky. And there's a substation right in the middle of nowhere, and that's because there is a sewage pump here, and that's why there's still electricity coming here. And down we go to the bomb factory, and just look at this sign: prohibited articles, ammunition and explosives regulations, volume 2, annex J. Things are not allowed to bring into the bomb factory: lanterns, oil lamps, stoves and all fire producing appliances. Well, obviously you don't want to sell explosives, do you? Matches, cigarette lighters, other portable means of producing a spark of flame. Yep, quite obvious. But if we go down the list, they get a bit more surreal. Food and drink. Why would you want to ban that? Then radio sets, fire alarms. Now that is a weird one. Why no fire alarms here? That is weird. Next, drugs and medicines other than those forming part of authorised first aid kit. Ammunition not authorised to be stored. And number 11, cameras. No, I don't want people photographing a bomb factory, do they? And I would now say to you, this bomb factory is completely abandoned like the rest of this site. But even though it's abandoned, appears to be abandoned, there's not that many weeds on the road. And if we look through the gate, here's what it looks like inside. It's not overgrown with weeds, which means it is in use still a bit. Either they just come down here and keep the weeds down, or they are still using it for something. Anyway, I'm pretty certain they don't keep any explosives here anymore, as the site's completely unmanned and there's no way they'd be storing explosives here and not have anyone on site. So they're obviously using it for something else. They're probably just using it for training or something. Would really like to urban explore this site, but it is very secure. Just look at these massive walls around it. They definitely do not want anyone getting in. Well, obviously I didn't want anyone getting in when it was in use as a bomb factory, but now it's just in use for training, whatever they use it for now. The walls are still here, and sadly I was not able to get in here. But if you look at this on Google Earth, you can see the different buildings for the factories, and they're all very far apart from each other. Say for some reason their fire went off in one of the sections of this area and completely exploded all of the explosives here, only that one bit would explode. Not all of the factory would explode. And that's why buildings are a long way apart. Okay, so now we go back along down to the housing. And firstly, let's go across the playing field and along now, see if we can get into some of these abandoned buildings halfway between the Chattenden Barracks and the Lodge Hill Barracks. And there's a hole in the fence, and you can very easily work out where you can get into places, because quite often people like to hang out in these abandoned buildings, and because they regularly walk a certain route, you can get to see where the paths are, and that's how you work out how to get into these places. Because remember, I never break an entry into any place, I always just go in the existing holes in the fences created by other people. And let's go through this hole in the fence, and it leads to another hole in the fence. Looks like a way into these buildings, but it's not. What this path leads to is this little den that some people have built. And the path doesn't appear to go any further than this, so this isn't the way into the abandoned buildings. It just leads to this children's den, and really looks like the people that built this were really having fun here. Especially like his little secret den tucked away in the woods through some holes in the fence. Really awesome. And you can see there's some people here quite recently, as they forgot to turn off their torch and it's still on. And this just looks like a children's place to have some fun. This isn't actually a way into the abandoned building. So then, let's go on looking around and see if I can get into these abandoned buildings. So let's trample through these brambles, and there is a lot of brambles here. It is quite hard work getting through here. I got stung quite a few times by stinging nettles, and I could not get to buildings this way, but if we zoom in a bit, and in the distance we can see the abandoned buildings that I was trying to get to. Right, let's turn around and try a different path. After going through more brambles and getting scratched a lot, I found some more paths leading this way. So if we go around here, trample through more brambles, oh dear, and along we go, and I've spotted another path that some people have been walking. So let's go along through these stinging nettles, and it leads out into some woods. Lots of bluebells about. If you're a bluebell nut like my mum is, you would love this place, but I'm not particularly into bluebells. And along we go to here, and here's the fence, and here is the other side of where the abandoned buildings are, behind this fence. And let's go along, and here are the buildings, and here is the way in, which has been blocked. Again, even though these buildings are abandoned, they're still owned by the Ministry of Defence, and they are still very protective of them, despite the fact they're completely abandoned, and they block up all of the holes in the fences that appear. Very, very annoying. MOD property, keep out. Oh dear, I just want to get in there so much. On the side, what does that say? Danger, entry restricted to military personnel only. Danger, keep out. Oh, it looks so enticing. I just want to get in there so much. So I'm just going to wait for someone else to make a hole in the fence, and then I might come back at a later date, and if anyone else has made a hole in the fence, I'll go in. So let's go on looking around this area, and I spotted another hole in the fence. And once again, it's been blocked up. So annoying. So I carry on looking around, and I found myself back at the den again. Looks like I've gone around in a complete circle and I'm back to where I started. Very annoying. It looks like I won't actually be able to get into this particular set of abandoned buildings. Anyway, it does look like whoever it was that made this den was having a lot of fun here. There's lots of interesting things around this den, such as a gas mask. Let's try it on. Hello! This particular gas mask is not actually a real gas mask. This is actually just a pretend one. And now we go into the woods behind the abandoned buildings. And let's take a look around these woods and see if there's any interesting things to see. Lots of bluebells about for any of you bluebell fanatics out there. And in the middle of these woods, bit of a distance from any of the buildings around, just where you wouldn't expect it, there is an air raid shelter. Very random. Well, it makes sense the air raid shelter is actually away from the buildings, because in the war, these buildings would have been at risk of being blown up by the Germans, because it's of course an army site, and that's why the air raid shelters are quite away from the buildings. So let's go down into this air raid shelter. Really abandoned, and a bit of a squeeze to get down here. And annoyingly, I forgot my torch. Very stupid of me. Who goes urban exploring without a torch? Heard it. Anyway, let's use the flash on the camera to have a look inside. It is actually flooded with water, so I won't be able to go any further in this anyway. But it looks like quite a fun air raid shelter. I actually really like old air raid shelters and tunnels from the war. They are really fun. And coming out of this air raid shelter, going along the woods a little bit more, and just nearby to it is another air raid shelter. These air raid shelters are actually very well hidden. The only thing that you can see from them is the entranceway into it. Other than that, there's no signs of them whatsoever above ground. And now let's go and see if we can get into any more abandoned buildings. So then, let's look around these woods. At this point, I went down to see if there's any rear entrances into the bomb factory. This was a very stupid decision, as I got lost in the woods. There was brambles everywhere. Everywhere I moved, I was having to trample through loads of stinging nettles. I got very stuck, and even the GPS on my Android went a bit wrong and kept saying I was in the wrong location a couple of times. Oh dear, not good. I was actually lost in these woods for at least an hour, trampling about trying to get back to the main paths, getting scratched and bleeding from all of the brambles around here. Not fun at all. Very annoying, and as try as I might, I could not really get much closer to the bomb factory. At one point I did get close to it, but all I could see was just a big wall which I had no chance of getting past it. Very, very annoying. So after that, I carry on trampling through the barrels trying to get out, and in the distance I can hear motorbike. Quite typical of quite areas like woods around Medway, you often hear motorbikes where chavs have gone out, stolen a motorbike and are driving illegally off-road without permission in these woods, just messing about. Then when they finish messing about with the motorbike, like when the motorbike has run out of petrol, they then go and burn the motorbike, which destroys their fingerprints and DNA that's on it to hide the evidence. So if you have a motorbike in Medway, make sure you leave it properly locked, otherwise it will just get nicked. And over here we can see a motorbike which the chavs finished with earlier. Completely burnt out, as you can see. I think his motorbike is a bit beyond repair. And this is what happens to your motorbike if you leave it in Medway and don't lock it up. The local chavs nick it, mess around with it, then burn it. Okay, let's go on going through the woods. I'm still rather lost, but at least now I've managed to get back towards the main paths and it's not quite as brambly anymore. And I found this area, right in the middle of the woods, very unexpected. Nothing old or historic here, but there is a tree swing! Whee! I kind of got a bit distracted here from my urban exploring, but hey, it's a tree swing! You can't just go past the tree swing without swinging on it. Anyway, after hanging on the swing, I went along this main path this time, so I got fed off going through all the brambles, and along to the back road that goes round the back of the barracks. This back road you can't drive along anymore because there's barriers each end of it, and even though there's barriers on it, they don't want cars going down it, they haven't actually stopped people going down, so you can still go down this bit of road. And here it is! Quite a weird bit of road. It is actually still maintained, because if this wasn't maintained, the brambles each side of the road would have completely grown over and there wouldn't be much of a tarmac left. So you can still see it is maintained even though it isn't actually used. Very typical of sort of MOD, sort of semi-abandoned areas. Not quite properly abandoned, but definitely not in use. And over here on the right we can see the back of the bomb factory. Just all you can see really is this one very large wall, and there's no chance whatsoever of getting into this area. And if we go left off of this road here, it leads to a big bridge. A bridge in the middle of nowhere, and this bridge is basically just where there's a sort of like little stream or marshland in the middle of these woods, and this bridge just goes over it. This area now isn't really used very much, but in the past this would have been where the army would have been training. And it's getting quite late, so that's pretty much all I did for a day. And the next week I came back here again to do some more urban exploring, and this is the roundabout down at the Chattenden end of the barracks. And you can see here the military road. These roads are not used very much. They are used by ordinary traffic a bit, but they are actually military roads, but the military doesn't use them anymore since this area is pretty much abandoned. And over here we can see this blocked off bit, and this is the entrance to a road that goes round the back of the barracks. So let's go along here, and over here is a car park, and this bit is quite overgrown and does seem to be some sort of assault course training area. I don't know if it's just used by the local that have found a second use for it, or whether this is actually official army assault course, I don't know, but MRCC, whatever that is. So let's go down along this road, and now let's see if we can get into the Chattenden Barracks. The Chattenden Barracks are the ones which are completely abandoned, and I did spend quite a while looking around here. Strictly no admittance! Yeah, look like it's going to stop me. Although that sign won't stop me, the big fence did. I did try very hard to get into these abandoned barracks, but I didn't actually manage it. And once again, I tried to circle around the fence, see if there's any holes in the fence. And once again, I end up having to trample through loads of brambles and got all scratched again. Oh dear, this urban exploring trip has been a bit of a misadventure. Once again, I'm lost in the woods, trampling through brambles, and it's all very hard work and annoying. Ah dear. Anyway, I did actually circle around the Chattenden Barracks, and there was once again quite a few holes in the fence into this abandoned area. But once again, just like the other abandoned buildings we saw, all of the holes in the fence have been blocked up. Very, very annoying. I now reckon this is pretty much a cat and mouse game between the local teams that want to go and hang out in the abandoned buildings and the MOD which want to come and block up all of the holes in the fence. And as I said, I never break an entry myself, so I will be coming back here to see if any more holes in the fence appear, and if they do, I'll go in an urban explorer Chattenden Barracks. So I'll be back. Anyway, after this I went to some woods down the south of the Chattenden area and found another tree swing.